Hello and welcome to Talking Dogs on a Monday. Yes, it's me. I'm back. It's ABC time after Barry Call. I'd like to thank Barry for stepping in for me for the last couple of weeks, both here on the Monday podcast and, of course, at Shelbourne Park. He did a wonderful, wonderful job. Tommy was just telling me off air that Barry literally proved to the world that anybody could do what I do right now. Thanks for that, Tommy. Fills me full of confidence on this Monday morning. You're watching this in the evening time, so let's get stuck into it because I am joined, as always, by the exile dub Tommy Lyons and the assassin, the lily-white assassin, Dylan Brennan, who himself had a winner on Friday night at Newbridge. 28-81, Dylan. Good start to his career. He's not big, but he can run a bit.
Yeah, he's good away. He's a nice bit of early, and so it's half the battle, especially in pups races. So we know a lot more the next time when he steps out with puppy company. But no, nice to get it, and he's a nice little dog to look forward to.
You'd sell him for 20,000?
Yeah, that'd be the minimum.
You're right, though. Bit of early speed certainly does help. And we saw that at Limerick on Saturday night because the Matchbook betting exchange, Irish St ledger, got underway at Limerick. And, well, we knew it was a top-class ledger. There was a really classy entry. It was 8-1 the field ahead of the competition. And, well, could well still be 8-1 the field because, Tommy, from start to finish, it was ultra-competitive, plenty of brilliant performances. And not surprisingly, the cream already starting to come to the top.
You know, the funniest thing about this, I don't know, is it do you forget things over the course of a year? But it always feels to me like the first round of the ledger, they nearly all do the same time. There's a remarkable kind of, they're all within about 10 spots of each other. They're not, in theory, there's a slight exception, but you know what I mean? Like, you have a whole bunch of absolutely brilliant greyhounds. And yet, like Vincenzo 65, Ballinbolhead 65, Mustang Jet 67, I'll Not Be Back 60. You know, you just get a whole pile of them seem to all do about the same time, and then you're wondering to yourself, what way was the track? How am I going to read this? Like, how am I going to make? You know, how am I going to find out which one of them actually produced a better performance or whatever? So, it's fascinating, but it's absolutely top class. And I know I talked about the laurels and that, and this is Derby-esque again. Like, these are just effectively, without the Derby winner and a couple of exceptions like the likes of Swords Rex and whatever, it's just like Ballinbolhead, Vincenzo, Mustang Jet, I'll Not Be Back, Bob Said Dream, Bocco's Budsit, Bocco's Crystal, Droopy's Ellison. They're all winning heats the first round. That's the first round of the ledger. It's phenomenal, but it's also great. It shows that the owners and trainers are willing to keep them going to this stage and go for the big stakes. It really makes it. This is a fabulous ledger. I mean, I kind of feel you should nearly be looking to say it's not just because we've been saying too much recently that all these stakes are very good, but they really, really are. Like, it's
yeah, it follows true. It follows true. The form, it's the same greyhounds we've been talking about all year, effectively. You know, the dogs that came to unraced stakes, and then with the one or two exceptions, second season greyhounds. But generally, it's just the same group of greyhounds. Very talented bunch, and worth noting, Dylan, that the 4 fastest times were all done by females. That doesn't really come as a surprise given the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, no, I think we said it quite a bit over the last few years. The caliber of bitches have been unbelievable, and it's the same. Like, even over the last number of weeks, like, you look at what Bocco's Crystal's doing, obviously winning the 600 and that, I'll Not Be Back, breaking the clock in Cork. You know, there's great bitches around, and you know, they're right in the mix. And I think in turn, Tommy was saying there about the track, it's hard to know how to read it, and I was like that as well. I thought after the first round or after the first heat, you kind of think to yourself the track could be running well enough because, you know, the bobsleigh bitch, she kind of checked off the back of the leader at the second men, still done 29.43. But then as the night went on, you're kind of thinking, just that could have been a hell of a run for her. Like, when you look at the likes of Vincenzo and Ballinbolhead getting clear runs and only doing 29.60s, 65. So yeah, look, it's an unbelievable competition again, and it's going to take some winning, but I don't think there's too many surprises either. Obviously, you had a couple of big names going out, your Tullagravens, Ballymac Finns, but you're going to get that in a stake like this. You know, I think most heats, you know, the favourites were 2 to 4, and yeah, look, it's going to be an interesting couple of weeks for sure.
Yeah, you can see the prices of of the winners throughout the evening. You know, it probably wasn't a night to be a bookmaker. There was plenty of short ones. But we will kick off, Tommy. We'll race through these 11 heats because there are a few other things we want to discuss about the competition. Bobsleigh Dream kicked off proceedings 1-2, 29:43. It was relatively easy. Notable that she did 17:44 but 29:43. She does 11:99 home. Like, that is absolutely incredible racing when you consider, you know, the likes of I'll Not Be Back and others, like we're lengths behind her.
And that is of the winners now. I'd say, I can't say for certain with the others. Of the winners, that's 3 lengths quicker than any other heat winner home, which is phenomenal stuff, because I think 12:20 was the next best, which was Ballymac Run, doing 12:20. So it was a phenomenal effort. But like, we know she has that ability. She's had that ability, and as Dylan said, it wasn't exactly always straightforward for her. But the funny thing, I was trying to look at the sectionals, the first sectionals, which aren't the most significant section, let's be honest about it, because it's nearly too close to the line. But like, I have 6-7 of them here written in front of me. 289 of the winners now. 289, 287, 298, 289, 290, 287, 291.
Yeah.
This is just in keeping with the rest of it, with the finishing times and the whole lot. Bobsleigh Dream now, let's be fair, she had a great draw. She was able to turn a close second, and she's power packed, and she's been in great form, and she was in this, you know, the top stakes recently. Did she break a track record maybe on?
She has the 570 record at Tralee, doesn't she?
Tralee, yeah. Like, she has phenomenal ability. I don't see her as a winner of the competition. I'll be honest about it, because I think we're going to find a little bit more early pace in the competition, and she's going to have to do things the real hard way. But it was a good positive start. It was only carrying on, in fairness to her, only carrying on from the form she had been showing over the last good while, actually, to be fair.
Yeah. Story's Cash Out was second, but outside of those two, you really were struggling to find any real sort of opposition to them. Ballinulty Bolt flew out and led into the corner, but he was sort of effectively run over from the second bend home. You know, nothing else could land a blow. Scarty Yank was a non-runner, but a good display by Bobsleigh Dream, Dylan. We learned nothing new about her except just to confirm that she's an immensely fast and immensely strong lady.
Yeah, and she had a good makeup. Look, you would have been surprised had she been beaten. You know, I think as the competition goes on, you know, I know she's in one the next night, but she is one I'd sort of worry about a bit with the draw. I think she wants to be on the fence or very, very close to it anyway. I think she drew middle. She might be in a bit of trouble, but she's so strong as well. She's, you know, she is that type that she'd be tough to keep out of frame. And obviously, like you said, coming home at 11:99 is outrageously fast.
Outrageous.
And I think it was one of them runs, you know, at the time, you know, you're saying to yourself, you know, it's a very good run. But I think as the night goes on, you're going back and looking at it and thinking it's even better than what you maybe first thought.
Yeah, touch freakish in the end. I'll Not Be Back won the second heat, so it was 2 for 2 for the ladies. Kilcolgan Comet took over on the opening corner. I'll Not Be Back goes too close. She took over halfway, and she went on to win pretty comfortably in 29:60. Like, she does 17:34 to the third bend, so she's 10 spots quicker than Bobsleigh Dream to that point, and yet she's recording 17 spots slower. So, you know, full 27 spots behind Bobsleigh Dream from the third bend home. But I'll Not Be Back, really isn't the crest of a wave. Set the track record at Cork on November 5th, Laurel's final night, of course, Tommy. She's a very, very fast lady. Again, something similar to Bobsleigh Dream in the sense where just a yard into the corner is a concern. It's cost her at times, but she is capable of a ping start, so, you know, she can overcome it.
Yeah, like her sections all but stood up. Her early section, sorry. But I had her in Cork at one of the nights. She was popped out, seemed to lose a little bit down to halfway, maybe even down to third bend, and then flew home again. I wouldn't have thought that, like, you can hardly say a bitch that's been in the form she's in is you're entitled to think that she's going to keep improving. She just can't. Like, I mean, she's at a level. She's at a level you can't keep improving from. She's just too good.
But if she maintains it, that's way
No. What I'm saying is, what we're reading from the sections the other day, yes, you can improve for a look at the track or a recent run at the track. Say you can improve a little bit on that, but like, I don't know where she finds the extras. That's the little concern I have with her in terms of, like, she did a 289 and a 538. 538 stacks up well against everything apart from, of the winners now again, apart from Bocco's Crystal, who I have an estimated 531. Didn't actually lead, but did a 531. It stacks up pretty well against the rest of them. So, like, she showed early pace that maybe that longer run up does suit a little bit, even though it's funny with her. I would have thought she'll acted right into the bend. I think just when it gets a little bit hotter, she might be caught out. I still have that, like, I can see two things in my mind from Curraheen Park. I can see the run, the track record run was just phenomenal. And I can see the run in the quarterfinals of the Laurels, where I thought she had a pretty good makeup and she should qualify and probably win the heat, and she didn't. And I thought she was positioned at the first bend to win it. And it's slightly different in the demands of early pace, the Ledger and the Laurels. Obviously, there's and it's not huge because you're still talking about top class greyhounds, but there's a slightly different demand. So maybe this suits her a little bit better. But I still have a couple of concerns. Phenomenally fast, but just don't know where she'll be at the first bend when it gets red hot.
Yeah, one thing I will say, there's no problem with the kennel. Paul Hennessy's dogs are absolutely bouncing at present. He's throwing up good winners left, right, and centre. Doesn't have a massive team these days, but I'll tell you one thing: every single one of them are absolutely tuned at present. Worth keeping an eye on over the next week or two, because, as I said, a kennel in form worth following. Kilcolgan Comet ran well in second. This fellow had run well at Cork, Tommy, in a couple of occasions in the Laurels. Ran okay in defeat.
Yeah, did actually. It's funny. Kilcolgan Zeus is running, I think, as well, was he? And I think the word was in Cork.
Zeus ran, I think he was third into the corner. I think he ended up sneaking through in fourth. But Kilcolgan, yeah.
No, but I think Zeus was the talk was in Cork, and whether it's true or not was that he might be the fastest one in the kennel. But Comet seems to show it more naturally. Ran a good race, but again, the winner actually ran a very good race, to be honest about. But the winner was in such good form, and when she get the clear run, you're going to struggle to beat her unless you're truly, not top class, but Derby class. Yeah. That's what you got to do to beat her when she gets a run like that.
No question about it. You mentioned Tullochraven. It didn't happen for him. Dylan, it did happen for I'll Not Be Back in Kilcolgan Comet. But of course, Beach Avenue qualifying in third behind him. Anything to add to Tommy's thoughts on that race?
No, I off her break, I was a little bit surprised she didn't lead around. I know what you're saying. She might just lack that yard into the corner, but I thought off her break she would have led Kilcolgan Comet. Did a right good tussle down the back, but from the third bend on, she stamped her authority on it. She'd remind you a little bit, I think we spoke this time last year, of the dog that was withdrawn in the first heat, Scarty Yank, where he probably lacks that yard into the bend, but she's very strong. But no, I would be a little bit worried about her going forward when there's a bit more early in the race. But no, she's obviously in brilliant order, and like you say, Beach Avenue ran his normal race back in third, out the back and staying on strong. And that's just him.
What a star he is. Moving on to Heat 3, we won't talk an awful lot about this. It was a messy affair. Ballymac Joey just got up the inside of Karen Tuhill at the corner, who gave him a tumble. He got up and ran on, but sadly he wasn't going to qualify. Callaway Masters was in traffic. Russian Glory was in traffic. On the outside, Killahan Sydney avoided the traffic. Tommy went to the front. 3 wins now from 9 starts. He's clearly a nice enough type of dog. 30-21. Hard to put a read in this. Callaway Masters was probably the profile dog in the race, and just didn't happen for him, but he ran okay to qualify.
Yeah, you think, look at the race beforehand, that it would be a stronger race in 30-21. Yes, there was a bit of trouble, but you didn't come away thinking that anything of it was desperately unlucky, or that anything was going to be stepping up to be a player in it. I know Russian Glory in the early stages of the Laurel or the Ledger last year impressed us. It just didn't happen in the latter stages.
Yeah, he's very lightly raced this year, Russian Glory. I think he's had an issue too. He was a finalist last year. I think he was second favourite in the final, wasn't he?
Yeah, our Graham's other dog as well, Park Blake, he impressed. They came along at almost similar times. They both impressed. Killahan Sydney, look at all the sections, say he's got to improve considerably from start to finish. 298, 552, 1784, 1237 home, 3021 finishing time. It all kind of stacks up to saying that there's a long way to go to be involved in the latter stages.
Yeah, Dylan, anything to add?
No, it was just one of those. I think you had the 2 inside dogs with a bit of early, but they're actually slow starters, and then they're rushing up the inside, and there's just mayhem.
It's a recipe for disaster, and funnily enough, especially at Limerick, that's not the makeup you want, really.
No, and Callaway Masters, he just looked for a stride or two, like he was actually going to get around. And I think he just checked then again, and Killahan Sydney obviously strong, got a nice run around the outside, but it was messy, and I wouldn't read too much into that.
We'll stay with you, Dylan, because Heat 4 went to Mustang Jet, of course, trained in Kildare by Dolores Ruth. This was more like the Mustang Jet we grew to love just around the start of the Derby time. Didn't take a flyer. Adamant approach, pinged out of 4, but Mustang Jet comfortably got to him into the bend, showed good early speed, got to the front, charged clear, 17:20 to the third bend, which was good, 29:67 home. A very likeable display by Mustang Jet.
Yeah, again, a little bit like the first heat, he had the makeup as well. He was the only white seed, but I kind of had everything, like 4 and 5 kind of edging in, and everything was kind of going left apart from him. He flew to the third bend. He's obviously come back in, I think I read somewhere where I think he had an operation after the Derby. And he's obviously come back in seriously good form, like the 17:39 around Newbridge. And I think he did a 28:11 around Limerick in an unofficial. Which is fair out running. So, look, I'd imagine he's one of the dogs, one of quite a few that'll certainly come on from the run. He was entitled to win it, but he was very good.
Tommy, he is a dog that could have a good makeup through this competition.
I love this performance, because even though his sectionals 287 reads fairly well, 541 I'm giving him estimated. Just okay. But 17:20 to the third is phenomenal, considering even though the 287 reads well, he didn't break well. The Adamant approach dog did 278 out through the bars. But if you said to me of those towards the top of the market, which of them is capable of doing a 278, you definitely put Mustang Jet in there. He's capable of doing that. He just didn't break the other night. So to do a 17:20, it's not surprising 12:47 home was quite slow. And obviously 48 spots behind what Bob said, Dream is. You're effectively losing 9 or 7 lengths, effectively losing 7 lengths from the third bend home, or the section at the third bend, which is an awful lot. But I'd be tend to forgive it. I
first run in nearly 2 months. You'd imagine you'll come on for it, wouldn't you?
I think there's a lot to build on there. I think, and I wasn't being harsh and maybe proven right to some degree. I think after the first or second round of the Derby, I said, look, this dog can't win the Derby, just because of the way he moved in and things like that at the bend, and needed to clear phenomenally fast dogs. I think it could be a different story here now.
He looked very comfortable around Limerick.
Player. I think I liked it, even though he did tighten up, of course, at the bend, and most dogs are going to do that anyway. He does tighten in at the first bend. I quite like the way he ran the track. I'd be very encouraged by that run. I'd expect him to shave 20 or 25, 30 spots off that.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't disagree with that. John Rainsford got a good tune out of Adamant Approach. He regularly does. Adamant Approach, a really nice, consistent dog. If he keeps pinging out of traps like that, while he may not win a ledger, he'll certainly could just have a bearing on, dogs around them. Kilcolgan Zeus and Flaming Moneybags, the other 2 qualifiers there, but Mustang Jet very much the dog to take out of it. On to Heat 5, and here we saw Bucco's Budset, a dog, Tommy, who's impressed so many times in the early rounds of competitions, and once again, trap to line winner, did everything right. He's just a thorough professional. We know exactly how good he is. Magical Mary storming home, as you would expect. She probably doesn't have the early speed, but at the same time, she is a massive engine, and she loves Limerick.
I was a little tiny shade disappointed with her. I thought she turned second. I thought she'd pick it up. I think I wrote in my preview. I can't remember. I think I wrote in the preview. I thought that Bucco's would lead, and the makeup of the race suggested she'd turn second. And I thought from there she'd pick him up. And now she did go inside, go outside. She did a few things wrong in the race, and she still ran well. So I would mark up Bucco's Budset's run there, because she's a real powerful runner. We saw what she did in Laurel's final night in defeat. She ran a phenomenal race behind Bucco's Crystal. Bucco's Budset's stuff was okay by his own standard. 287, 539, 1742 is a bit disappointing.
You'd certainly like to think he's going to go much faster than the 2989.
Well, it's the 1742 because of the early pace he has. That's where the problem is, down to the third, to close to the third bend. I mean, he's over 3 lengths behind Bucco's Crystal and Mustang Jet on that, and Mustang Jet didn't even break. He can obviously improve upon that. Definitely get it down into the 1730s, the low 1730s. I'd expect him to improve. Now, it's not that he hasn't been running or anything like that. He has, so it's not like he's going to improve tons. But I do think he's better than it. I was a little bit disappointed with Magical Mary, but then, do you know what? She's the type that will keep qualifying, isn't she? She has that power. She has that pace. She's able to do it from behind. She's able to, she has that kind of power that she can, and tracking ability that she can make up a lot of ground from behind. I can see her qualifying a long way, but I think we'll see a different Buckles next week, hopefully.
Dylan?
Yeah, I was like Tommy. I didn't know if I was being too hard on her, but I was very disappointed with Magical Mary. Just off the second bend, like I said, she turned second, but she turned right on his tail. It's not as if she turned a couple of lengths behind him. She turned right on his tail, and I thought it was just a matter of where she going to pick him up. And I know she kind of challenged, I think, on the inside around the bottom two bends and got closed off, and she had to switch out. But with the time and that, I was a little bit disappointed with her. But look, she's still there, and like you said, she's very fast. Some of the spins she has around Limerick are crazy, and she might keep qualifying as well. And again, like Buckles would say, you're probably expecting him to go quicker than what he did. You know, like I said, it's not as if he's had a long break or anything. He's been kept on the go. So, they'll both have to take a step forward next week. And I think it was Hazard. There was a couple of local dogs that are down there nearly every week. A couple of them. It was nice to see a couple of them go through. He was another one back in third.
It's always a classic where one or two of the local dogs go sort of relatively deep into it. Perhaps it will be Hazel Hills Hazard this year. You never know. We'll move on. Dylan, we'll start with you. Ballymac Run, a good winner of the Puppy Oaks a week earlier, in fine style, beating a really classy field, and she beat a classy field in Heat 6, including her kennel companion Ballymac Whisper, who I'm sure was caught out by how much of a tight railer Medusa is. I didn't think she was going to be that tight to the fence, but she certainly did dive in. Ballymac Whisper was sort of left with no room at the end, sort of into the opening corner, and again she absolutely flew to grab third. She's narrowly beaten for second, but Ballymac Run is a lady on the crest of a wave. She's improving all the time. She's very fast. She's very strong. She's just a thoroughly likable performer. 29.51. Serious effort by this lady, Dylan.
Yeah, she's a typical Liam Dowling, isn't she? Where he starts them quite young, and they always show plenty of promise early. And you say to yourself, "How will she's young, or he or she's young, they'll improve at racing and whatever." And that's exactly what she's done. She's got into the winning groove now, and she has it all. She's good away. She has a nice bit of early into the bend. She stays strong. She flies down the back. It would have been interesting. Look, Ballymac Whisper, like you said, she'd no chance. She didn't come away, and she had absolutely no room on the run up. She ran on well. I think the second dog, we probably touched on him a bit throughout the Derby. I think he's a really likable dog. I think his run.
You always sense there's a big run them.
Yeah, and his run before the Ledger, the week before the Ledger, screamed out at you that you could tell it was badly needed. And I'd say even the run the other night was similar. I think you look at him and you think there's plenty left in that lad. He's one of them where you do say quite a bit. He's going to pop out some night and do a run. But I think I was looking for something before the competition started at a price. Nothing really jumped out at me, and I looked at him and looked away from him, and kind of after the other night, I kind of thought, he mightn't be a bad one. He's got loads of gears, but look, Ballymac Run, to be fair, she's a bitch in form, and she's got a tougher makeup now the next night. It'd be interesting to see. She's been in one the last couple of nights, but with the form she's in, he'll definitely be respecting her.
Tommy.
Look, Bucky's got this one right. He's 6-4 favourite, the winner, 2-1 Ballymac Whisper. They obviously expected that Ballymac Run would get out in front, get first run. The Ballymac Whisper might run into a bit of trouble. She again showed her pace. Ballymac Whisper did. Ballymac Run is seriously fast, but again, it's just a case of against this level, the early pace. I don't think she'll always be in front.
She's currently depending on a bit of a ping start, and as you say, when she gets the wrong draw, the wrong dogs around her, it's then a case of now you're gonna have to depend on your back straight pace rather than your early speed.
Yeah, that's not to say we're ruling her out by any means, but it's just I think there was a lot to like about the makeup of the race the other night, and it's good when you have young greyhounds who can actually take advantage of it, because oftentimes they can't when they're. I know it's hard to say she's stepping up in grade, but she was slightly. It's just that the makeup was so good. Medusa obviously caused issue for Ballymac Whisper. Ballymac Whisper has all that pacing, but again, you'll probably back her each way to win it. I'll leave her out of it.
The price is well and truly collapsed after her Laurel's exploits. I'm afraid we're not getting 51 about her. I will say one thing: it'd be no surprise to me if she rocked up in the final Ballymac Whisper. I think her pace from halfway is unbelievable. Like the other night. I know she's beaten 4 lengths in the head, but there was a point where I'm going, God, will she even qualify here? Like, she came from out of the clouds. She absolutely hammered it to escape again. She's just an immensely fast lady.
No argument.
No argument. Move on to, that's unlike you. Moving on to Heat 7. And here was another one for the ladies. Bocco's Crystal. 29.48. Dylan, she's odds on, and it's understandable why. Despite the fact she's taking on some very talented trackers, she just popped out, made every inch of the running, and the show just keeps on rolling.
Yeah, she's so likable. She just, she starts and stays. And again, she's another bitch in just unbelievable form. I thought the second ran an absolute blinder. I didn't give him much chance on his trial, and I'd say he didn't do an awful lot since his last run in Shelburne, because I think he was up £3 or £4 or £3 anyway for his trial, and he's still getting him down. He was down £1, I think, the other night, but he ran an absolute corker. He's an unbelievable little dog. He did the same in the Derby, and he's the type of dog most times, no matter how well he runs, the next week you nearly overlook him, which is probably a bit harsh. And he just goes and he backs it up again. And yeah, he ran an absolute cracker. He stayed on all the way to the line, but look, when she popped out in front, you were never going to catch her. She's just relentless at the minute, and she's again, she keeps making them starts. She'll be right in the mix.
Tommy, in her last 8 starts, she's won 5. She's been beaten into second on 3 occasions by Bobsleigh Dream, Crafty Kokoro, and Balnabula Ed. So even when she's beaten, she's not beaten far, and it's by the very best in the business. She's just a lady in tremendous form, but she's been progressive. It's not just a case of she's run into good form. Like, this lady is potentially top class, and she's a ledger contender. Again, she'll need to be at her sharpest at boxes, but there's no question she certainly has the engine and the ability to go close.
She definitely does. Even that was highlighted by the fact that even the night she, the final in Dublin, she popped out, and just because she's so professional at traps. I think the 219 might be wrong. That might be 291, but anyway, her sectional. But
yeah, I'd say so.
219 be fairly smart. Like she's 5 from 8 over 550 yards. I think she did finish with last one night, but like second to Ballinbola Ed, second to Crafty Kokoro. I mean, as you say, no matter what the trip, it takes something a little bit special to beat her. She's in superb form. Her sectional stack up quite well. 5:31 is the best that I can find. That's an estimate. She wasn't in front at that stage. She was second to Gert Kelly Nestor. I think probably maybe ahead or so. 17:20 down to third. That's up there with the very best, and that joint best the other night. Mustang Jet equaled it and probably will do better next week, I'd imagine. But her 12:28 home was fine considering what she had done there, and a 29:48 run. I mean, the whole everything about it is it's like a carbon copy of what she's been doing for, I was going to say weeks, but probably months.
Yeah, in each of her last 8 starts, okay, the night she was beaten by Balnabula Ed, she only touched the front briefly, but she has been in front at every point in one of her, she's been in front in each at some point in each of her last 8 starts. Like, she was picked up late by Bobsleigh Dream and Crafty Kokoro. Like, that's no slight in her. The night she was beaten by Crafty Kokoro, she did 32.03 for 600 yards at Shelburne, which is sensational running. Like, in the top 10 fastest runs of all time at Shelburne Park for the 600. So it just goes to show how very, very quick and talented she is. As we said, Gert Kelly Nestor, big run in second by him. Just fucking you say about this fella. Like, he's well now into his 5th year. A Deadly Showtime was 3rd. He's been showing glimpses of getting back to his very best form. Didn't get the start the other night, and he's very much about getting the start. Chiro was 4th. He's a strong runner. Hoodoo Brown didn't happen for him and Loxley. But very much about the winner. And of course, we have to give Gert Kelly Nestor a good mention. We'll move on to the 8th heat, because this was an absolute dinger. Trinity Jr., the youngster, showing the juvenile derby form, was well up there. He led for very much of the way, but Droopy's Edison, Tommy, we saw glimpses of it during the Laurels at Cork, of course, how fast he is. We saw the track record breaking run. His track record is now gone. I'll not be back has taken that off him, but I think we'll see a different dog actually at Limerick. I think he enjoyed the extra bit of space and room the other night. And while Trinity Jr. led, you just always got the sense that Droopy's Edison was too close, and he powered up the home straight to win in 29.66. Having not set the pace, I think it was a hell of a run.
And yeah, he got a little bit lucky at the first bend when the top Barefoot Supremo was forced to check and just missed him. Came across in front of him, he just managed to miss him. I thought Drew's Edison ran well. I thought he tracked a little bit better than he had done in Cork. I think even in the final, I actually thought he ran better than people think in the final of the Laurels, where he was in 4, missed the kick, was shown pace up, moved to go inside. I think he rubbed the rails. Maybe he might have bounced off them a little bit and kind of ran actually better than it looked. Like, to be honest, with the likes of him, right? The likes of him, if you're a supporter of him or a connection of him, I think you just close your eyes until you get to the final and hope that you're still there when the final draw has been made. Because you just, I don't have it. You know, the way most dogs, you have an idea what they'll do, exactly what they'll do. I'm not really sure with Drew's Edison. You know, is he drawn in 3? What does he do? Does he track his celebrity? If he's drawn in 1, perfect. If he's drawn out in 4 or 5, what are we going to get? How is he going to miss it? Is he going to cut in? Is he going to get trouble?
We'll find out the next night he's out in 5.
Yeah, exactly. Like what the point I'm making is that he's immensely talented, but he's not straightforward. So you kind of hope, and like someday it might happen. It's like battling about it a bit. Someday it might happen for him, we won't be surprised when it does because of his ability. But it's just a matter of close your eyes each of the early rounds and hope to God you're still there when come final night.
Yeah, I think, Dylan, this was a heat where, you know, Drew's Edison obviously is a machine. Trinity Junior is very talented, but I think both 3rd and 4th can go a few rounds. Legolas, a very strong greyhound. He wants the inside, but like, he certainly wasn't disgraced in 3rd. And Barefoot Supremo, well, we know how talented he is. He lost all chance of victory at the opening corner, but did stay on strongly. He'll come on for the run. It was his first run in 2 months.
Yeah, no, I think the Legolas dog, he's a nice dog too. Like I said, he probably does want to rail, but he stays well. You know, I know you say Barefoot Supremo might have needed the run, but he to come from behind him off the last bend to nab him for 3rd. There's not many at back around him. He just doesn't want to be drawn in defence. I think he's shown that a couple of times. And
he does have a tendency when there's dogs around to check off. There's no question about it. If you leave him alone, he'll stay tight enough to the fence, but doesn't want company on the corner.
Yeah, and like Tommy said, Drew's Edison was probably, you know, fortunate. It could have went a completely different way. But no, I love the run of the winner. I thought, just when you compare it to the other heats, the fact that he kind of, I don't know if it was he checked or just kind of ran into the back of Trinity Junior approaching the 3rd bend, but you know, it stopped his momentum a bit, and to get back up and win on the line in 29.66, like I said, comparing to some of the other heats, I think it was a good run. Trinity Junior, he's loads of early gears, but the trip will stretch him. Take nothing away from him. Again, when you compare it to some of the other runs, it was absolutely it was a brilliant run. But I think he's the type of dog. He's going to be he has to be away and gone, and I think he'll be treading water a bit later on.
Heat 9, Tommy. Clock actually for the last 2 or 3 sort of surprised me somewhat. Vincenzo, Ping, away and gone, wins 8 lengths, 29.65. You would have expected him to sort of match the likes of the Bobsleigh Dreams of this world or Bocco's Crystals, you know, maybe going a couple of lengths faster. But he is entitled to probably need the run. He's had 2 months off. He had a good trial, of course, last week, but he'd do 28.08 with his eyes closed. I know exactly how talented you think this greyhound is, Vincenzo. I tend to agree with you. I know Dylan's a big fan also. So it was very encouraging that he did everything right, and it's on to the next challenge.
Couldn't have put it better in, and the reason being, we watched the whole string of Derby heats where you're going, he's just about to take off now. He's just about to take off. Yeah. He's going to do it right tonight. He's going to do it right the next night.
But then his chance was gone. He was taken out.
And then he was taken out. So like for a dog of his ability, you'd love to see him go all the way to the final. And whether he wins or loses the final and gets beaten by a better dog in the night, whatever happens, you'd love to see him go there having put a string of faultless displays together. And what I mean is, that doesn't mean winning. That just means popping out, getting his run, not getting in trouble or whatever. Like, sorry for keeping you up, Ian.
Yeah, excuse me.
But no, I just love to see what the dog can do if he got a string of runs, if he can put them together. And this is a pretty encouraging start. I was delighted to see it because I'd been telling people every week during the Derby that it's about to happen, and it just never did. So hopefully it will this time anyway.
It didn't happen for Ballymacfin, Dylan. He just walked out. Obviously, he's a young dog, fresh dog, and after a month and a half off after his Derby exploits, with only the one trial, he was obviously fresh in himself and just missed the kicking. And thereafter, doors closed at the wrong time, just could never get involved. But instead, it was one of our old favourites, at Lacazette, who chased Vincenzo home in second, be it 8 lengths behind. Clune Turk Bruno was back in third. That's a Galway Raider, and Stories Pee-wee was the one that was denying Ballymacfin his place in the next round. But Vincenzo, I know you're a massive fan. Lots to like about this run. Better to come.
Yeah, great to see him back. Still having nightmares over him being withdrawn in the Derby, but no, it's great to see him back in one piece. And I think he proved in the Champion 550 that time that he is the type of dog that will step forward with each run. He was foot perfect. Like I said, the clock, it was one of those, I think it was 2 or 3 times during the night, with Ballinabool ahead as well. As soon as they go around the opening bend, you're thinking, you'll watch the clock here now, and then it pops up and you're like, Jesus, I was expecting. But like I said, it was a funny sort of a night. Ballymacfin just missed it, and I suppose he got into a battle with the real wrong dog, didn't he, for a qualifying spot in Stories Pee-wee. And at Lacazette, it's a bit like Gord Kelly Nestor, and that he just keeps popping up in these big competitions and finding a way to get through. But no, it's nice to see Vincenzo back, and hopefully now he gets can keep qualifying, and we'll see the proper Vincenzo later on in the competition.
Here. Moving on to Heat 10. This was the heat we were all looking forward to, the clash of Romeo Magico, the English Derby champion, and Ballinabool Ed, who of course was favoured to win both the Irish and the English Derbies at one point through both competitions. It didn't happen for him, but we know how immensely talented he was. And the betting would suggest it was very much a 2-dog affair. Owen Spice was next best at 6-1. Now, I dare say he should have been 16-1. But I was actually surprised they both started 5-4. I thought you could have nearly gone a shade of odds on and evens and gone 25 bar, because it looked very much a 2-dog affair, Tommy, and that's exactly how it played out. They're two very classy animals, 2 dogs with very similar type profiles. They're not lightning starters. Both have great speed into the corner. They're big down the back, and they get the 550 well. And it was just a case of Ballinabool Ed got first run, and Magico beats him 2.5 lengths. If they met next week, it could be the other way around.
No, I couldn't. I tell you what, if I had hair, I'd be tearing it out with this dog. I'm not joking. He did it on the bridle. He did it on the bridle. It's like you say, come on, Rome, English Derby winner, go on, come on. And then just when they straighten up again, away we go. Good looking, thanks. I mean, if he gets in front of you and he wants to win, and if he wants to win in front, you're just not going to come near him. Like, he's just like, I kind of want to see him win the competition, because he's that ridiculously talented. He's that good. And I know 3 times he's looked like winning the competition, and 3 times he's disappointed us. But I tell you what, I was looking at the prices, and like Dylan, I didn't come up with anything that I really wanted to back. And the only reason I didn't is because the only one I could look at the prices and say I could back him was Ballinabool Ed, and I'm going, I can't keep falling for this fecker. I mean,
I looked at his price in the open round and went, I could just have a chunk in this fella and just ride it out for a few weeks,
That's what I was thinking. I was going, God, every time we're on here and there's a big competition on, I'm going, yeah, just get Ballinabool Ed in your book. And next thing he gets knocked out, and I'm going, oh my God, the last bit of hair in my head is after falling out with this dog. He, honest to God, he did it on the bridle. And I know Romeo Magico didn't break and whatever, but he showed the pace up and whatever else. But your man, that Ballinabool Ed he's probably different class to any greyhound in the country in terms of ability. I just love to see someday he decides, you know what, I'm just going to do it all here tonight and fly out and show us what he can do. Smash track records for sport, that dog. He looks like he's wearing a balaclava, or he's. I swear to God,
his coloring.
And I think he is. I think he is. I love the dog because of his raw ability, but he's just a monkey.
He's an immensely talented greyhound. There's no question about it. You do get the impression that sometimes when dogs would come to him, he definitely has an extra gear to go again. Dylan is renting to add there. Ballinabool Ed, brilliant performance. Romeo Magico ran so well down at Cork on Laurel's final night. That was a brilliant run. But again, he only took it up on the corner that night. It's a case of, he's going to have that little bit of luck in the first 5 strides. But, it's very hard to see how both of these don't get to the final, without bad luck.
Yeah. Yeah, like Tommy summed it up properly there. He just, I'd say if the race was won in, what was it, 29.65, I'd say if it was won in 29.25, he probably still would have been 2.5 lengths in front. He's that type of dog, you know. Yeah, Romeo Magico just missed it a bit, paced up quite well. But like I said, that's him. He's not, now and again, he might flash out, but it doesn't happen very often, but he's loads of gears. Yeah, and they're similar in just the raw pace that the both have, and it's, you know I said it in the derby as well about Ballinabula. It was hard not to see him get into the final, and you know in this game things can happen that just, you know, you get trouble, you miss the break or whatever.
In fairness to the dog, both his derby eliminations were very, very unlucky. You know what I mean? They were very unlucky.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It can happen, you know. It can happen, and who's to say it won't happen again in the ledger? But I'd agree with Tommy. I don't think there's any doubt he's the most talented dog probably in the competition. You know, he's freakishly fast, and you know, I suppose the one thing maybe in his favour is the fact he has that wide seed. If he could just, you know, stay out of trouble maybe, but his raw pace is just, you know, he, like I said, he's the type of dog. He's just, he could go out next week and win in 29.30, and he might win in 29.60 again the following week. He's just that type, but he's freakishly fast. Romeo Magico ran his usual race, and like you say, it was a match really, wasn't it? And that's the way. In fairness to the third dog, he actually stayed on really well. He's only 1.5 lengths behind Magico, and he went by him into the pickup. I thought he was a bit of an eye catcher in third. Not that he'd be, you know, he's pretty well exposed, but I thought he did run well, to be fair to him.
Yeah, he certainly did. Midfield Dino, a strong running greyhound, no question about that. He was 25-1. I don't really know exactly what to say about these two, but Tommy, is it fair to say that there's huge strength and depth? Don't get me wrong, but the real speedsters aren't in the leisure that would have been in the derby to upset these two.
Yeah, maybe so. It might be a bad point, because like what they
5 or 6 of the heat winners we're after speaking of, we said, well, when it gets tighter down the end of the track, you know, one or two of these early pacers, and I'm not sure where all these early pacers are really.
You've got Mustang Jet, obviously. You've got Mustang Jet. Outside of that, of the heat winners, I don't have them down as absolutely mad. Bacco's Buds, it probably probably has to do it early. But the rest of them, you're kind of going. You look at that, and Vincenzo, I don't call him a specialist early pacer.
No.
We Can Dream, Killenhan Sydney, no. I'll Not Be Back, no. Bobsleigh Dream, no. Ballymacrun, yeah, but this is a step up in class. Bacchus Crystal early pace, but this is again like Ballinabole has a bit of history of Bacchus Crystal, and he beat her up and down the street in Shelburne one day. And Droopy's Edison's certainly not an early, what you call a specialist early pacer. So you might be right. It could be a good point. It's probably the time to get.
They're not going to go 8-1 Ballinabole, are they, Tommy?
I nearly said it. I just checked myself there. No,
I wish we'd backed him last week.
Yeah. And, I know what he's going to do. But I'd probably fall for it. I'll probably fall for myself. I'm not advising anybody to back Ballinabule bed ever again, anti-post, but I'll probably fall for myself.
Dylan, we'll move on. He's 11. We'll finish off. A 4-dog affair, We Can Dream. He, like, obviously the juvenile classic champion. He's a dog who's had a few issues this year. His problem this year has been stringing a couple together after the juvenile classic. Now he's been in red hot company, so you certainly can make excuses for him, but we saw the other night what he's capable of. He's a good starter. He challenged into the corner with Ballymore Border, edged onto the fence, he took it up and went on to comfortably hold Ballymore Border in 29.86. It's a good yardstick, Ballymore Border. The fact that he got a solo on the outside, I think the track was definitely slower at this point, because this was better than the 29.86 run.
Yeah, you'd expect him, like you said, he flashed out. Again, he done everything right. And if you said that before the race, you certainly would have thought he'd do a lot better than that. It was pressure off, wasn't it, going into it without 2 non-runners. So, you know, once they all finished, they were going through to the next round. Yeah, and Ballymore Border, to be fair, he actually came away okay, considering he's not very, you know, that's his big downfall. He's got loads of gears.
He's very inconsistent at boxes generally.
Yeah. He's I think he's one of them dogs that when you're looking at a race and he's in it, you're just thinking to yourself, well, it just all depends on what he does at boxes, because if he traps, he's more than capable of popping out and doing a massive run, and more times than not he doesn't. And he never really got close to Weekend Dream, to be fair. So look, again, the clock wasn't there, but like you say, it was just keep saying it, but it was a funny night with clocks. I couldn't put my finger on it. I thought the track was running slow, and then there was some runs in between, like, that made you think, well, maybe it's not too slow. So I'm not so sure about the track, but I look, he's the only thing I would say about the winner, and he probably got away with it because he was so good away. I'd just rather see him a bit closer to the fence. I don't think he wants to be out there in 4, and I think he could be in it the next night if I'm not mistaken. But that's the only worry I'd have with him if he keeps getting them type of draws. He'd just have him down as a dog that wants to be closer to the fence.
Tommy?
Look, the winner. What if you want to find a positive in the winner? Obviously, he's very talented. He won the Juvenile Classic. It's that he has had a few runs recently, and that there's kind of no excuse now, if you know what I mean. In terms of he's got to be pretty close to as good as he's ever going to be again at this stage, almost. You know what I mean? He's had 6 runs basically since 24th September, 6 runs. That's pretty good going now. I mean, that's getting him back and having the dog right and whatever else. And I thought he ran well. I thought the runner-up is kind of exposed. I think in terms of he's had enough runs till we know where we stand from. 29.49 in Shelburne is pretty good. Let's not be unfair about the dog, but he's reasonably exposed. So I didn't think like, if you're not going to break in a 4-dog race, you're probably not going to break any night, if you know what I mean. Or if you're not going to, because of the you see a clear run and whatever else, you see a kind of good track in front of you. If you're not going to be able to turn close in that,
turn close rather than break. I think the 4-dog.
Turn close. Turn close. I think they're beaten by a classy dog. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure that I'd want to be back in Weekend Dream to do it every week.
Yeah. No, I can see that. Ballymore Border, very fast greyhound. If he was to trap like that most nights, you'd be okay. You'll certainly go a long way. Gaston Picas, the Produce Stakes champion, back in 3rd, and Ballymac Bailey, the other qualifier, back in 4th. A good four, and I think that's more the reason why I think the 29.86. I think it was definitely getting a bit slower at that point of night. Whether it was track was getting a little bit dead, or whether conditions were cooler or whatnot. For me, it just seemed a bit quicker.
I'm always deeply suspicious when the fastest run of the night is the first heat.
Yeah. And that happens so often. But yet, the evidence was there. The 11.99 home. That's where she's doing the clock. Because if let's say she's doing a 12.20. Like she's doing a 29.60 odd run, you know what I mean? It's a big difference there. Gentlemen, we have 48 greyhounds left. We have 9 wide seeds, of which we have the likes of Bocco's Budsit, Mustang Jet, Balnabula Ed, a strong contingent in the wides, 5 middles, 34 inside seeds. It's all to play for, but it's already sort of taking a bit of a shape. It's not a classic where you go, it's a complete head scratcher. Like, there are 10 or 12 dogs there at the head of the market, which you'd be surprised if the winner came from outside of them. Either or.
Yeah, look, I at the start of it, like you said earlier, you were kind of looking for a bet, and went away from it and come back. And you made a good point there, in fairness, just looking through the runners about the early pace and that's left in the competition. And I had a few Bob and Romeo Magico at the start of it, and Vincenzo. Although Vincenzo now was more of a heart decision out than anything.
Just in case decision, just so you can say that if he would win this, having me backed him for the Derby, if he did win this, I could say, well, at least I got a few quid back.
Yeah, after the Derby exploits, especially the fact I got, and usually I say to myself, never get ahead of yourself in this game. But remember when the draw came out for the semi-final Derby, I thought, we're getting paid out anyway, one way or the other, because there's not a hope he doesn't be in the first 3. And then
he's winding me up. He's winding me up.
No, Tommy still looks through his conversations with me on WhatsApp, and he sees Vincenzo out injured, and he just cries.
Yeah, and I didn't even see. I think I actually got a WhatsApp of one of the lads, and it just said, "Was it you that backed Vincenzo?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "He's out." And I thought he was winding me up, and I said no. So I went straight on to check it out, and he wasn't. Yeah. So like that, it was kind of one of those in this competition where I was like, I'd have to have something on him now, because it'd be as much as that was a sickener, he'd be rightly sick if he didn't back him and he went and won the Ledger. But yeah, no, it's taken shape. I think, like, I'd say it was a tough enough one to price up because, you know, there wasn't a lot between the top couple in the market. Look, I think Ballinabula Ed is I didn't check it. I presume he's favoured. Is he still favoured?
It hasn't. I don't think it's been priced up yet.
Yeah, I'd imagine he will be. But I'd be happy enough now that you made the point about the early pace with Romeo Magico, because he's an inside seed, but I don't think it really matters where he draws compared to maybe a year or so ago where you kind of wanted to see him closer to the rail. But he's gone a lot more clever now. He kind of runs from, you know, even the middle boxes, and I know his starting is a bit of a worry, but his just raw pace alone, you could see him going far. So, you know, I think if Ballinabula Ed keeps plodding away, keeps, you know, whether he's winning or qualifying, he's going to be right.
Plodding away. It's plodding definitely not a word I'd use to describe Ballinabula Ed.
Well, no, but like I said, it depends. You know, like Tommy mentioned it earlier, he's a dog that does it, if you like it, does it on the bridle, and that's just, he just does what he has to, you know what I mean? And once he stays in the competition, I'd imagine he's going to be right at the top of the market, and he's probably the right favourite, to be fair.
Yeah, do you know what he reminds me a little bit of? Now he's more of a wider runner, but Ardford Mick was a bit like that in his first season, where he used to get to the front and he just win that length. You just win the length. And in his second season, when he went to the Scottish Derby, it was like he was a different greyhound. It was like the penny had dropped, and he was gone 6 clear in the final of the Scottish Derby when he broke down. But he was my favourite greyhound. Still is my favourite greyhound. But again, there's still time. Ballinabula Ed just might decide, no, I think I'll win this by 12. You know, and he could. It'd be no surprise to anyone here if next week he popped out and won in 29-10. Would it?
Maybe they could replace the hood with cheek pieces.
And I think that's the great thing about him as well, that you know, like it is in him. It's just a matter of when he does it, but it's just what you're going to get with him. You know, he's an exciting dog to watch, and that's what you need in the sport as well. You know, whether he's just going to do what he has to do, or whether he's just going to go out and absolutely, you know, hack up, as they say. But he's an exciting dog, and yeah, the sport definitely needs something like that. You know,
Tommy, is that the way you see it? Ballinabula Ed just that little bit ahead of the pack, and then the pack is sort of just 10 or 12, sort of in and around the same mark.
Yeah, well, yes, in a way. I think the heats have worked out quite fairly next week, in the sense that I don't think we're going to lose many of the leading fancies. Like even Drugby's Edison be drawn 5. There isn't enough depth in the heat to keep him out of the next stage. Do you know what I mean? And even like Bacchus Crystal in 1 and Ballinabula Ed in 6, and you have a slow starter in 2. You have Bacchus Crystal should lead the inside. Ballinabula Ed should have no problem getting a good run at her, and whether he might lead her even. And so I don't see either of those getting knocked out. And just looking through all the heats, and I'm kind of going, I don't really see where the upsets are. Bobsleigh Dream has trap 1 again. Vincenzo has a tricky enough heat, but I think with Ballymac run in and inclined to Ballymac run will probably go in, whereas Killian Esther can break. But Vincenzo is kind of a dog that actually operated well from kind of middle, not necessarily out in trap 6. So I think that's fine. I'm just looking at the heats thinking, I don't really see too many of them getting knocked out. So unless something comes out and does a sensational time, I don't see the prices tightening up hugely from next week's heats to the following week, because I think they'll all still be there.
Yeah. No, it's coming to a boil. Just nice. Tommy, if I had to force you to pick a winner, what would it be?
Oh, don't do that. I can't recommend Ballinabula Ed. I just can't. Like I even though Ballinabula Ed beat Romeo Magico, I do think Romeo Magico is going to go very close.
He did 3 seconds of the night, Romeo Magico. Like, he can't do that again.
No,
he'll surely dip under. He'll surely get closer to the 290 next night. Now he'll need to. His Bacchus buds it out in trap 6. It's very much those two, though, in the betting in heat 7. Graham Holland will be hoping they can finish first and second and claim their place in the quarterfinals, because that's how close we are. You know, it's only a 5-run classic, not a 6-run classic like the Derby. So after the opening rounds, you're qualified you qualified next night. You're into the last 24, the quarterfinals, and things start to get interesting there. So you're going to go Romeo Magico. Dylan, you've sort of suggested what, you know, the 2 or 3 that take your interest. If you had to pick one.
Yeah, well, I look at the start, like I said, the head bet was Romeo Magico, so I'd have to stick with him. He didn't do that the other night to sway me any other way. I was happy enough with him, so yeah, Romeo Magico for me too.
I'll stick with Ballinabula Ed, but I'm going to throw in Trinity Junior. I just think he does have that little bit of early speed, a little bit of class, and he's still young enough and inexperienced enough. He's only had the 10 starts. He showed good early speed the other night. He was picked up late, but it was his first 550. I think you can forgive him for that. And it was Droopy's Edison picking him up. So just don't be surprised if Trinity Junior, creates a few waves in the coming weeks. But a wonderful competition, the Matchbook Betting Exchange, Irish St Ledger. One or two other things to mention, gentlemen. There was quality racing in Galway the other night, which is something we don't get to say all that often these days. It was great to see them with a top competition. The Galway Oaks kicked off, and Raha Mofo, Tommy, a bitch that we've been talking about for some time. She's certainly up there as one of my favorites. She was a brilliant winner, and she posted a track record breaking display. No surprise, a lady like that, when she gets loose, she's always going to be capable of doing a massive run.
She's class. But like, you know what the funny thing with her is, I never quite know whether she's going to lead or if she's going to turn fifth. That sort of way. I don't know what she's going to do, but I know what she's capable of doing when she does break. The funny thing is with Galway, and I know you're right what you say about we don't say that top class right now that often, but I know Hanover Phantom has been slightly disappointing, maybe. But the dogs that can do a run in Galway can tend to do it anywhere.
Tommy, you look at it. You just look at it the other night on TV. It's the most beautiful, flowing greyhound track. The surface looked immaculate. But the dimensions of the place, it's a beautiful racing surface and racing track, Dylan.
Yeah, it is. It's been a while since I was down there. I think it's been a very long time since I was down there. I think I went down for was it the Tyre Champion bitch that used to be
the Champion
down
bitch? Yeah, the 550 used to be down there.
I remember going down there. That was last time I was down there a long time ago when Alex and Drova was running. I think she got bet in the final by one of Graham's bitches, Handy Princess, I think it could have been.
That is a long time ago.
Yeah, that's the last time I was down there. But no, Tommy makes a good point. I always feel if you do run around Galway, it's a tough enough track. There's some good runs done there the other night, and it's nice to see them with get the entry that they got for the Oaks down there. Some really good bitches down there, and Raha Mofa's right up there. Like we talk about the caliber bitches at the minute, she's right up there with the best of them. And I think Reggie's bitch seems to have turned the corner as well. The Speedle's about. She done a good run last week at a big price. And in fairness to her, she went and backed it up the other night.
Yeah, she's a nice tool. Clogheen Lass got loose early, Tommy. Like as Clogheen Lass is racing cleared on the back straight, I went, is this one going to go close to Raha Mofo's track record? Because we know how talented she is, but she does 29.49. She's 3 lengths behind Raha Mofo, just over 3 lengths behind her. And Lujano, should I say, was the fourth heat winner. She's immensely strong. She was a bit hit and miss earlier in her career, but the penny really seems to have dropped the last 3 or 4 months, and she's very, very quick. But turning into a lovely competition down there, well worth your while keeping an eye on the Galway Oaks, Tommy.
If I just watched the Raha Mofo run there, if they can move the whole track up to Shelburne Park, I'd say they'd be delighted. She absolutely ran it to perfection. She was she lovely. Apart from obviously the fact that she's a wide seat and she kind of moved in a bit at the first bend, but she didn't make any dramatic moves. But from the second she got, the length clear and took the corner, she ran it like a middle to inside seed. Ran it beautifully.
Yeah, she did. If you take out those 2 or 3 runs during the Derby where she just didn't seem comfortable and happy in herself, she's been a remarkable tool this year. Like, she's obviously the Irish Oaks champion. She's an immensely big engine. But I suppose the decision to bring her to Galway rather than to Limerick was made by the fact that Marissa Malloy is very much a local to Galway, and the fact that she does seem to thrive in her own company. Raha Mofo. She's no question the one to beat in the competition, but she certainly has the ability to have been a player in the Ledger. Tommy.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any doubt about that. Ian, sorry, I don't think there's any doubt about that. She had the ability to be. I tell you, I'd be interested to see how she runs out of Trap 4 next weekend. I think it'll be fine for her as long as they're 3 wide seasons. It's very unusual. The 3 wide seasons in the semi-final of a stake
for a bitch that's as fast and as strong as her. She is a very natural starter. She is a natural trapper. That's the one thing we've seen about her. She often does trap, and it was at the corner that she was throwing away a length in 1 or 2 of the heats of the Oaks, and of course in her failed Derby campaign. But no, her confidence seems to be back. She ran so well in the early rounds of the Juvenile Derby. Dylan, she's a bitch with a big future. If they decide to race her again next year, she's certainly amongst the very fastest in training.
Yeah, she is. And I think as well, you talk about she could have racked up in the ledger. I'm not too sure what to run to the bend for the 5-2-5s like in Galway, but I just feel with her, she's so good away. And I had this discussion actually with one of the lads that walks dogs for Mert in Shelburne, Paddy Coss one night. She's so good away, but I think she just gets the longer run to the bend. She was a bit disappointing in the Derby, and I think it just kind of cut her out, the extra 25 yards into the bend. I think she's better over 5-2-5 because she's so good away. She kind of gets to the bend more so at the right time rather than dogs coming then from behind her. So maybe that was, maybe that's why she wasn't in the ledger. But then again, like you say, she's so good in with bitches as well. So no, and it was a good weekend for Mort as well. He won the Munster Juvenile last night.
I was just about to say, I was surprised you haven't mentioned her, given the fact that she's called Lily White Queen.
Yeah, I said I must mention it because she's actually owned by Paul Finn, who's obviously local. He has dogs with Mort and he has dogs with Sean Conway here as well. And I was delighted for him to see him have a big winner like that. I'm sure I seen the trophy last night in the photo. I'm sure he celebrated well out with that. So well done.
It's just begging to be filled, that trophy, isn't it?
Oh yeah, fact. No better man to fill it as well.
Yeah, at 28.52, she did a 2.84 last week after a 2.85 in the semis, 28.57, 28.52. You can't ask more than that. And now she'll be set different targets. And gentlemen, just before we go, I want to touch on a couple more things. The Winter Racing Festival is approaching. It's the back end of the year, of course. It's the 29th and 30th. But the €10,000 prizes are back to 6 €10,000 races on the Friday night, the second night of the festival, for the 5-2-5, 550, 575, 600, 750, and the bitch 525. Of course, we also have an 850. We have the sprint. We have races for syndicate greyhounds. We have open 525s, open 550s. We have the previous night. We have runs for the graders. We have the marathon final. It's great to see the big money back, and to be honest, the prize money is just mind-boggling for the Winter Racing Festival.
Yeah, and it's great to see them cater as well for. It's not all about the top dogs. Obviously they're the ones I suppose that bring in. Everyone loves to go see the top dogs running, but it's great that they're catering for, like you say. I think is there a veterans race, syndicate race,
yeah.
Locals.
Like the syndicate race now, I'm afraid that's going to be the bailout race. Like the Derby winner could run in that rather than the Open 550. I hope they don't. I hope we see more Warrior in the 550 and not the syndicate race.
I think the prize money might sway them. I think the prize money might sway them. The
syndicate race is still worth $5,000,
Yeah, no, but it is. It's great. Like you say, it's brilliant to have. The prize money is unbelievable, but it's just so nice to see them catering for the wider picture, the syndicates and the locals and the older stagers. So it's again, it'll be a cracking 2 days, and it won't be long coming around now.
Yeah, certainly won't. Tommy, the Winter Racing Festival, as I said, plans released. It'd be interesting to see what the crowds are like given the time of the year. But there is actually it's just that far enough after Christmas that people are sort of looking for things to do. And it's a Thursday, Friday night. People still off work. You could see good crowd rocking up to Sheldon Park. Obviously, the racing will hopefully back it up. There will be one or two of the big guns put away, but there'll still be plenty of them around, including the Derby champion.
Is it 28th and 29th or 29th?
No, 29th and 30th. It's the Thursday and Friday.
And the Friday, yeah. It's funny. The standard of the greyhound is that good. You can see the likes of the Derby winner going off a 4-5 to 1 chance in a 550. That's how good. It really is. It really is. I mean, like you handpick the 6 best dogs, including the Derby winner, the 6 best dogs over 550 in the country, and try to price it up.
It could be 3 to field.
Or easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
It's like we have talent in every department at the moment, so it will be a huge night. Night. You just hope you do. Like you've got the 4 days of Limerick, 4 days of Leopardstown, straight after Christmas, and if people are coming up towards the latter stages after Leopardstown, they might hang around as well. From the country and stay,
that fourth day Leopardstown is very much the quietest day, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is big time. But it is. But because of that means it'll be a Thursday night, and the big night in the Winter Racing Festival is the Friday night. So you just hope that maybe they might hang around maybe for especially with people having so much interest in it. And I think I've seen a bit of a lift. I've seen a bit of a lift in the race tracks, the horse racing tracks in the last while. I know some of them are still struggling and whatever else, but there has definitely been a little bit of a lift. And particularly if there's an effort being made by the tracks to actually get people in there, they're showing that they are willing to go. So I'm hoping it'll be the same.
You brought up a point there, something you reminded me I wanted to mention. It's something we had touched upon, or I touched upon a while back, about the sense of occasion in greyhound racing. Derby final night, that's what you want to tap into. You want to channel that sort of that idea that people come and celebrate on that big night. We saw it at Curraheen Park for the Laurels, a really big crowd, a really enthusiastic crowd, and the racing office embraced it too. Open races, a really top class supporting card. We want to see the same at Limerick, and that's something we need at it's all well and good Shelbourne Park getting for Derby final night and one or two of the nights in the year. We want to see that around the country, and Cork and Limerick can really back it up after the Derby. It'd be great to see a wonderful supporting card in Limerick final night and make it an occasion where people can't afford to miss.
And you know what, Ian? Even though in some ways it's counterintuitive, anybody who's involved in the greyhound game shouldn't have to be putting a hand into their pocket for the likes of these nights. There should be tickets available, readily available to proper greyhound folk who might bring somebody with them, or somebody who's not necessarily a regular goer. I mean, Liam Cashman for the Laurels when he sponsored the Laurels in Cork, he used to always have. He used to make sure the place was packed out. And I mean, to the point that my first Laurels, before I moved to Cork, my first Laurels final, I was 25 minutes queuing just to get a glass of Coke. The heat was so much, because the crowd was so big in Curraheen, that the heat was almost unbearable. I just needed a drink of water or something. And I had 25 minutes queuing at a bar because it was that deep in number of people trying to get to it. It was absolutely like the type of crowd we just don't see at the moment, right? We haven't seen for years, right? It was ridiculous. I mean, to the point that I thought it was nearly too much, but that's another story. So I'm saying what you should do, right? And there's two things about the Winter Racing Festival. First of all, yes, it's a tricky time of year in terms of there's a lot on, and maybe you're saying people are looking for something. There's a lot of expense around Christmas, right? But we shouldn't be embarrassed to be pushing it. If people can't go, they can't go. But if you don't make the effort to get them in, they'll never come in. So you can't be embarrassed about pushing it and really doing your best to it, and get tickets out to people and say, come on, just come up here and okay, it's coming towards the almost a week after Christmas, and get yourself a night out. Come up to Shelbourne Park; it'd be great crack. Try get them in the Thursday. Definitely get them in the Friday night.
See it as the last blowout, because a lot of people don't even celebrate New Year's because it's just a nightmare of an evening. So let it be the last blowout of the year before the January dry season. Come up to Shelbourne Park and have a great night. And if you can't make the two nights, make one night.
Yeah, I say that's it. You could say, oh God, it's going to be hard to sell that. That's a funny night. It's normally in November, early December, whatever. Now look at the timing of it. Forget about all that. Do everything you can to push it to people. Don't be embarrassed by it. And if they don't come, just at least you can say afterwards, well, it wasn't from our lack of effort.
Yeah. Well, they will come. There's no question about it. I know of plenty of UK contingent already have booked in and will be there. Dylan, the sense of occasion, it is important at greyhound racing. Will you be at the Ledger final?
I will. I'll be at the Ledger final, hopefully semi-final. I would have went down next week, only I'm bringing to the young lad she told me I'm bringing the young lad to some wrestling show.
She said, he booked that himself, Tommy.
Yeah.
The first thing I asked, because it's in Ennis. First thing I asked was, what time was it at? It's not early enough to get there and get out and get to the Ledger. No, I'll be at the Ledger final, hopefully, and a few semi-final maybe as well. And Tommy made a good point. Just hopefully it's get the word out there, and hopefully people show up. And again, you mentioned the English coming over. In fairness to them, the big Derby final night, the Winter Festival, they do rack up, and it's great to see. And yeah, fingers crossed. There's a great crowd there, and when Shelbourne's full, there's nothing like it, because the card will be. There's no doubt. You probably will have a few that maybe line or put away. It's a different time of year, and dogs, a lot of the big dogs would normally be put away. But I for one-off race with that type of money, I don't think there'll be too many now that won't rack up.
No, I tend to agree with you. Before we go, gentlemen, just let you know that the Ledger final is coming up, and myself and Lyons will be on the road, because on December 6th, the roadshow, the Talking Dogs Roadshow will be at Limerick, and we'll be there talking all matters. Matchbook Betting Exchange, Irish St. Ledger. We hope you will join us. If you wish to express interest, you can do so on Talking Dogs either now or tomorrow. And well, we'll be doing the old lottery draw over the next few weeks, and hopefully you'll be there with us on December 6th. But that's it from this Monday evening on Talking Dogs on a Monday. We hope you've enjoyed it. We've rabbited on a little bit longer than BC did last week, but we touched a fair few subjects there. So for the moment, lots to look forward to in the Matchbook Betting Exchange, Irish St. Ledger. Best of luck to all the remaining competitors. But for now, good luck, and God bless, should I say.